Check 1, 2, check. Jinx myself by saying the other day, flawless. Do that. It'll pick up. It's fine. Misbehaving enough.
All right, call this meeting to order at 8:03. And in your packet, you got the mention of August meeting. So we'll make a motion.
That's
The
wrong.
regulations.
No, why did you do that? I apologize for that. It's not what I've done.
You guys are the right thing.
No.
Oh, no,
I-
Oh, July 31st.
Yeah, no, wait. That's an enigmatic package. Yeah. Well, I guess you won't be approving those. So that's a good question too. Yeah, the ones in your phone are September. Yeah. The ones that came electronically.
So,
Yeah.
when you take a look at them on your phone, and then let's wait a minute or two, and you take a motion to accept those.
I like that.
Yeah.
Physically. Second. Motion by Kristen, second by Bob. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you for fighting off that curveball. All right, treasurer's report. Kristen.
All right, on our balance sheet, you can see that we have a very strong balance sheet with cash of about $1.6 million versus liabilities of $52,000. And our total fund balance is $1.6 million. On the next sheet is the statement of cash transactions, which shows interest received of $4,480. And disbursements of $4,643 for a total cash balance of 1.6 as presented on the balance sheet. And then the final page, the income statement shows our interest earnings. Our expenses exceed our earnings by $8,656. But on a year-to-date basis, we have more revenue than expense by $266,000. Any questions?
Sounds so easy. Love it. All right. Take a motion to accept the financial statements as presented by the treasurer. Motion by Darlene. Pay the bills as presented by Kristen. Pay the bills as presented by Kristen.
I'll make that one.
All right. Motion by Janine, second by Terry. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you, Kristen. IDA budget?
Yeah. You've got a draft copy of that in your packet on the August minutes. I'll just walk you through some of the highlights. I think the biggest challenge every year is either what is sort of underway and kind of in process in terms of revenue, be it either land sales or actual closings. You'll see really if you look at previous, both the 2003 budget and the 2003 actual, that can kind of vary greatly. But if you go back to the 22 years and 21 years, this year's budget is probably more in line with those and somewhat conservative. From a revenue perspective, and this could even change depending on A, does the project really reach fruition, but two, what's the actual timing of the closing. But at this point, the admin fees are quote only CEVA Wind and CV Plastics, has a couple assumed applications. And then the land sales also is really only CV Plastics, and if and when the entity that's interested in Up North Hosting buys that other 1.4 acres. So that does assume land closing with Weisenberg happening in 2024. And again, the world doesn't come to an end, it slides into 2025. I lowered the interest slightly because I'm assuming at some point that interest rate that we've been receiving will come down somewhat. And then the only other thing in the revenue piece is I've kind of taken half of the FAST award and put it in this year because we really just haven't theoretically haven't spent any of it because we haven't asked for reimbursement yet. But we'll certainly do that, especially with Wendell expenses and so on. So you can see a much lower revenue figure. Last year, we budgeted 300, the actual for 2003 was 305. The budget for last year was way up in the 500 due to a lot of anticipated land sales and so on, some that haven't happened yet. So it's a super conservative revenue number at 203. We really try and figure that out and then frankly back our way into the expenses. And if you've been around, there's those 2 or 3 line items that we modify significantly depending on the revenue. But I will point out that for the attorney's fees, there's a proposed 2% increase for the financial personal services. Kate, there's the proposed 2.5% increase. And then similarly, for like myself and Maureen and what other elements of the management fee, there's proposed and planned 2.5% increase. Other than that, you'll just see where we've lowered a number of those bigger accounts, most notably the construction and development of land, and then the engineering fees. It's really about it. Purchase of land and right of way as well has been lowered a bit, but all to get to a balanced budget. The folks that the state controller and budget office prefer that, especially for Paris, we show a balanced budget. Whether it ends up that way or not, we shall see. But I'll be happy to take any other questions. Otherwise, take a look at it over the month and we'll put it back on the agenda for November for actual approval.
Just thinking about removing, it's not a big line, like your office supply line, is that enough for the new address and not when you're.
I mean, we really ironically, the desk.
There's a lot of paper, but.
The desks that we're using now over there, that we purchased over there, will be the desks that come with us
I mean,
in
paper,
early
like
days.
letterhead envelopes.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, we probably won't change our address though, just to keep that. But I can tweak it, that's fine, I'll definitely go back and look at that, just, cause they're always, you're right. There's things you realize you need a new set of file cabinets, what have you, so. Any other questions? All right, well, again, take a look at it, I'll tweak that, and again, we'll have it on the agenda for November to actually approve it.
All right, thank you, Tom. All right, let's see, moving on to administrative director's report.
Yep, I'll just fly through that real quick. The rail trail number 2 to the city line is 100% done now. That has some extra boulders to theoretically slow down ATV vehicles, and then some additional signs, fairly important signs that make it clear that at the end of the trail you're going to come into an unimproved trail. So don't assume you're going to be a nice trail all the way to on that case, Hinman Road. But yeah, that's now 100% complete. So we'll just work through the progress reports and the buildings, if you will. I will, in the next month or so, they've not released it yet, share with you the Go Bike Buffalo report as part of that kind of rail trail, just so you understand. The city of Lockport, North Tonawanda, and Wheatfield are looking to expand their trails and or fill them in, if you will. It was just a decent report, not so much in terms of where would the bike path go and how much is that going to cost. That is in there, but there is some decent, I thought, Census Bureau information and so on, and they did do kind of a bike use survey that you may find interesting just from a planning perspective. The other thing I would note is they don't propose a simple extension of the cities from our trail to Hinman Road. I think they got a lot of feedback that whole kind of Ohio Street, and Summit is kind of crazy, and their, crossings really be safe there. So it actually proposes it being a bit further, but you'll see that when you get the report. So hopefully that allows entities like the city to take that report and have it be the basis for seeking the funding to do it. So, as an aside, Kristen and her organization that previously owned Presbyterian Home were kind enough to invite us to the Chase Commons Market Apartment open house. At least I'd say the first half. What they've done, if you have paid attention to Presbyterian Home, you have the two historic buildings, the Keep and Williams buildings on the side, and then a number of years ago they built a lot of new space, and it's been the new space that's been renovated into, I think, 29 apartments, but they're waiting on some switchgear to fully open all those. But many of those are rented already at a fairly high monthly rental rate, but it's good. I think it'll be a good addition to both the city as well as the town of Lockport, and hopefully when they really finish those two historic buildings, they'll have another open house so folks can get in and see it. But yeah, they've done a nice job. There was a architectural firm, ELEV8, that I hadn't heard of before that did a really nice job. So I made sure I took the card and put them on the list of folks that we sometimes recommend. We've talked before about sort of me overseeing that town hall AV installation. That's ready to go. Remember, that's this room. There'll be a small conference hall room and then a digital sign in the foyer. We're really just waiting on some electric work to get complete, and then you might, even by next month, I would be surprised, see all those elements. So we can try it out. I just met the other day with Jeff Quain. He's NYSEG's new economic development rep. That's a little bit disappointing only in the sense that the other individual before that, Chris Nosby, who I'd known from a previous life, had really been so much more responsive than any other NYSEG rep that we've had. Good meeting with Jeff. Not only had a meeting, but also toured through the IDA park real quickly. So hopefully, I kind of made it clear what it was like prior to Chris and the importance of them being responsive to us. So fingers crossed. It was a good meeting. I did sit with the deputy supervisor to review the blueprints for quote town center that would include our new offices. I really didn't have any changes in our new offices. The space is big, but what we're really going to do is my office will be slightly bigger so that it'll accommodate a table and 4 to 6 chairs for meeting, something I certainly don't have right now. But even Maureen's space would still be more than adequate. We did give her some feedback on some of the meeting rooms, like the electrical, so maybe we'll hold 2 separate but mirrored display boards so that if they eventually hold 2 different meetings in there or something, they can have 2 different displays and so on. But it'll be good. So I have no further feedback for her. Ours is fine. If you're out in the park, you'll hopefully notice that the former Avian Poly 1 finally has occupants. It's about a dozen welding stations from Custom Laser. That barely scratches the surface of the space in there, even in the plant portion, never mind nobody in the office portion. So we'll keep an eye on that, but it's good to have that, having occupants and being used now. You may have seen some articles the last few weeks on plans for Eastern Hills Mall and the Boulevard Mall to become town centers themselves. Well, the Western New York Commercial Realtors Group held some presentations in both Amherst and Clarence a couple, 3 weeks ago. And enlightening. Mall owns some, town owns some. I guess it's vendors also own some. So how they'll all be able to play nice. I know the town is going to send out an RFP, if you will, for their section. But be interesting to see. I missed where Jamal, speaking of that, bought the Wegmans on Alberta Drive. That kind of butts up against to it. So maybe it wasn't as silly that he also bought a portion of the Boulevard Mall. But exciting plans, but I don't think you'll see any groundbreaking anytime soon. And then lastly, last meeting, the brush hogging hadn't been completed, but it is now, so we'll be set till spring.
Did the new nice site representative have any comments on power allocation or future needs?
Open to hearing about all that, but he comes from Albany and not in a NYSEG utility role, more of a government role, if you will. But I think he's been in the role even in the last 3, 4. I think if I saw him, he may have been at the summer meeting in Cooperstown. So maybe he's been, almost 6 months, and he certainly has heard from multiple entities about inadequate power and the ridiculousness of timing and cost of studies to determine how power can be facilitated. I did ask him the question, and just to put in the back of his head, if we ever 40 megawatts, 220 megawatt transformers and sections, they're only using like 13 megawatts of that. So there's a lot of power even just sitting there. But again, how do you call that away to be able to serve the park? I'm not sure. So he's got a lot to learn, but I do think he'll hopefully be responsive.
All right, thanks, Tom. Any other questions for Tom? All righty, I guess moving on to the attorney's report.
I don't have anything specific to address today.
Okay.
Both, Bison, bag, and closes for, I believe, and the same is true for Cedar Winds inducement package. That's more of it. That's it. Nothing real special to talk about.
All right, sounds good. Any old business? New business for South Wales?
Yep, you got those, both in your kind of day of packet this morning and electronically. I have gotten 2 or 3 of them back. If I get everyone's, in the next week or two, what we'll do is we have in the past is try and collate those results and bring those to the member board meeting just so you can see what the overall evaluation of the board's operations were.
All right, thank you. All right, this time we'll take a motion to executive session for consultation with attorney. Motion by Bob, second by Janine.
Let me run over and do that.
Second by Janine. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Get my steps in.
Just do it right now.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll do
It's
it.
adjourned.
I will probably.
all right, good luck, everybody.
See you Terry.
Take care.
We did, was it Darlene and who else?
Have a good trip.
Yeah, we
There was, Janine.
We had a wonderful time too. And they told me before I cashed out 6 hours. That was great.
You complete mine to give.
Huh?
But when you do, we were doing about an hour church. So we got out. It's cool. It's not like Disney. It's less into full size. So it's so there's a lot of banana. It's covered by trees.
So you enjoyed our offices?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay over there.
Good.
It's convenient for, the time that you're over there.
So, I have a laugh.
Still liking your rap? Yeah.
What year?
Yeah.
I'll be happy if we get the project in. Out for the year. But there's, results of this project.
Yeah, well, that's really, thanks, Doug.
Robert Slogan.
Yeah, actually.
Good.
It's supposed to happen this week, but there's been attorney slow things down.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had how many gets there? Yeah. And then you walk down the hall. Of course, built as a house. Entrance. They first come off Main Street. Same levels. I wish we'd spent some time together. imagine
Yeah.
a rail line with 2 seats and an electric motor. It wasn't just. I don't have it. There's a machine. So it wasn't just a ride. Okay. Yes, there is one. Saw it on the. I saw it on their website.
Yeah. It's north of Orange.
Yes. Yes. We spent the afternoon just listening to music. That was just so good. I'm not an audiophile. I don't know. It's super much just good. I was happy with it.
I guess I know. Also.
I mean, if Ted went, you probably could take guitar players. I thought it was fantastic. So, sounds like good.
Oh, we did. We were lucky with the weather and everything.
It's so.
Yeah.
It was a 10-hour, wasn't that 10-hour bus ride? You know, something.
Yeah, I was a little nervous. An hour, but maybe die. But,
Drops you off where you can be, you go see what you need to see, come back to the bus. It was so easy. And you see. You also,
yeah. It's one of the worst. I mean, the grass so big. Mountains, flat.
thermal fields and mountains.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys talked about the difference in snowfall where north end of the park to the south. The south will get 15 feet, the north will get 2 inches. Because the way the terrain is, it's almost high desert.